Welcome to Base Space, a crypto podcast. Base Space.
Jeremy, it was a pleasure to meet you at ETH Denver, and thank you so much for taking the time to come out and speak to us today. For those new joining us right now, welcome to the Base Space. This is a show hosted by myself, the Crypto Mewtwo. We also have Chase Coins and Super High as well. And we focus on creating opportunities for growth, networking, and education in the crypto industry. Today, we have the honor of having Jeremy, Head of Growth at Balancer Labs. Welcome to the show, Jeremy. We're pumped to have you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of tradition here on the show, Jeremy. We always ask new guests when they come on how they got into crypto. Would love to hear your story.
Sure. Before I do, I just feel like I need to acknowledge, all the people who are suffering in Ukraine, and definitely on my mind a lot, and in my thoughts and on my heart. So it's kind of hard sometimes to focus and to be present in this conversation, knowing that there are a lot of people out there who are in just like a nightmare situation. So just wanted to acknowledge everyone in Ukraine and send my best to them. But to answer your question, I first got into Bitcoin in 2012. That's when I first read about it and was immediately just very curious and started diving into the rabbit hole. I guess it's a testament to like how crazy or irrational of a person I am, because most people that I've heard from or talked to when they first came across it, they were very skeptical, but I pretty much dove headfirst and was like very enthusiastic right away. And at that time, I was building my first startup, which was a consumer tech Web 2 company in the advertising technology space. And crypto became a side passion that I would spend some free time on a regular basis. I would try to convince people who I thought were really smart that Bitcoin was the future, and that they should be paying attention to it. And they all thought that it was a scam and that it was never going to work, which initially was a little bit discouraging to me, because I was very young at that time and very new in my career, and I feel like I didn't fully have the like self-confidence at that point yet to be like, everyone's wrong, like fuck you. So it kind of made me pause and question it for a little bit, but not for too long. I eventually just decided that like I was willing to disagree with everyone and do my thing as far as Bitcoin and the crypto ecosystem. Well, it was just Bitcoin at that time, and then soon became very interested in Ethereum. I think it was around the time that the yellow paper first was published, pre-launch, pre-ICO. Was just lucky enough that somehow it kind of came across my radar, because none of my friends, like literally zero of my friends at that time, were into this stuff. It was kind of like my own secret world, basically. Like first I was trying to sort of be this evangelist. I was very excited about it, and I was kind of trying to convince people about it. But after a couple years of like literally no one giving a shit, I guess I just kind of stopped trying and just kept it to myself, and just thought like eventually they'll see. So um, I was like that guy in the meme at the party. Uh, I love that meme. The guy in the corner. So anyway, yeah, I was very much focused on like my full-time work, building my first startup, and then after that, I started another startup in the like digital wellness space. It was like a digital coaching app, and after exiting that company, which was 2018, that's when I felt like I was finally ready to go full time into crypto, which was just a dream of mine, something that I always I didn't know when that could actually happen, and in hindsight, I definitely could have done that earlier, and I have a lot of respect for people who like completely went all in terms of like spending all of their time on crypto like in the very early days. So definitely a lot of respect for people who made that decision. But for me, it was a side thing for the first like 6 years. Yeah, 6 years, and then in 2018, I started Immutable Capital, which is my personal, my own like crypto investment fund, and then in 2020, I joined Balancer Labs because I just couldn't resist the itch to get hands-on in the space beyond just like investing and doing research. And I was consulting, speaking, investing, and I felt like I needed to be a part of building this industry and this and the future of crypto. So um, when I first learned about Balancer, it was a very deeply mind-blowing moment, and at that point, I just felt like I had to like this was the thing that I needed to get involved with. So I got in touch with the team, which was very small at that time, just a bunch of engineers, and managed to eventually convince them that they needed someone of my talents, which was kind of like um, biz dev, marketing, um, communications, just basically like a non-technical generalist was my role initially. So I'll stop there for now.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot to unpack there. I think we all kind of relate to what you were saying about kind of feeling like separated from like normal society. I think that's something that I feel like on a daily basis. I think myself have gone through like that journey of like trying to show people or educate people on crypto or different projects that I was super passionate about. And at the end of the day, I kind of stopped at this point. Like unless someone asks me about it, like unless they personally know that I'm involved in the space and so forth, it's pretty hard. A lot of people I think are kind of have this closed minded mentality, so it's very difficult to even get people to go onto an exchange and purchase like $5 of Bitcoin, and just like start getting involved, or even to watch like 5-minute video about something. I think social media has kind of tainted people's attention spans, and it's much harder now to even to get people to gravitate. So I applaud you for sticking it through and continuing to push forward in your vision, and yeah, that's very very commendable.
Thanks. Yeah, in hindsight, when everyone disagrees with you and you feel really strong conviction towards something, that's when you know that you have an opportunity for very asymmetric um, returns, or like a really asymmetric bet, because those are the required conditions for one of those once in a generation opportunities to happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much been going on this whole time. Whether it's to like DeFi Summer, even NFTs. People didn't believe that they had any sort of value or would take off the way that they did. And yeah, I think there'll be loads of opportunity. We're so early in the space to kind of identify those new functionality, new use cases, new up and coming protocols that are going to be rock stars in the space and drive this ecosystem, for it as a whole. So I'm pumped to see like even just the next year of development, what that's going to look like.
Definitely.
I'm also like you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'm super curious. Like, what is the role of like head of growth even do at Balancer Labs? Like, what is your like everyday like really entail?
Yeah, it's definitely kind of a vague title, but um, and my work has evolved several times from the beginning till now. As I mentioned, like when I first started, um, I was kind of just like trying to do everything that I felt was important to be done that wasn't engineering related because I was the only like non-engineer on the team. So that meant kind of sort of getting some marketing off the ground, advocating for sort of the need for better design and UX, um, strengthening our like biz dev partnership efforts, um, getting involved in like public awareness, giving talks and like helping people understand um, what Balancer is and how they could use it and why it's useful. Um, and fortunately, over time, our team has grown a lot, and I've been able to allow other people who are better than me at those things handle them. Like we have an amazing marketing team, we have an amazing design team. We have a great like PR team, and I've helped build out like a really great partnerships team. So I was for a while really focusing in a lot on biz dev and partnerships, and that was kind of the role that I evolved into. But now I'm kind of shifting again. Now that we've really built like a all-star team that is doing partnerships both within Balancer Labs and within the Balancer DAO. Uh, I'm spending most of my time now on more high-level strategy and um, helping to manage the direction of the team and working on some pretty exciting initiatives, both like in the community and within Balancer Labs. And um, I'll be able to share a lot more in the near future. But for now, it's still in the works.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Like you've done so much, like whether it's marketing, UX. You said you built out the whole partnership side of the Balancer business. Like that's a lot of different hats to wear. I'm kind of curious, like what has been like your biggest learning or takeaway, like working at Balancer and kind of filling all these different roles and shoes that you've been in.
Good question. Um, I have definitely learned a ton um, because this whole experience has been like such a like just being on a rocket ship and being surrounded by like such insanely smart people, um, like on our team, but also being involved in partnerships. I've interacted with so many other teams in DeFi, which has been like really a blessing because, you know, you just get to connect with such incredible people, and like I've just been like mind blown so many times by like what people have come up with, and like the systems that they've built. I'm just like, how the hell did you do this, you know? So I don't, it's hard to come up with like the biggest learning. I've definitely just I'll try to like think about areas where I've really improved my knowledge. I think that I've definitely learned a lot about what have I learned a lot? I like lost my train of thought.
You No worries.
Yeah,
It's kind of a tough question. Like if you haven't reflected, right? I think this industry is moving so fast and so quickly. A lot of people that we ask, like they haven't even taken the time to like reflect on everything that they've done and accomplished.
that's a good point. I think we're running at full speed so much that sometimes we forget to like stop and reflect, but stopping and reflecting is very important. I've definitely learned a lot about how to like build and manage a team. And I think that I was pretty good at like finding talent and evaluating, people's strengths and skill sets, but I think I've gotten a lot better at that. Um, I think I've learned to be a better leader. I think like just really all around, like so many of my skills have gotten sharper. It's been a year and a half. Like it's not a long time in human terms, but in DeFi terms, it's like a good 7 years. So um, yeah, it's been an opportunity to like really grow professionally, and also just like really enjoy working on things that I'm very passionate about. One of the things that really excited me, one of the many things that really excited me about um, joining this project was like ever since I first learned the concept of a DAO. I'm not sure when that was, maybe 2016 that started floating around, 15, 16. But ever since I learned that concept, it just was a dream of mine to like, help build one and help and like actually be part of one and be involved in that. So um, one of the things that has been really, really cool is that I've had this opportunity to um, spend some of my energy on, bringing forward initiatives to kind of expand and strengthen the Balancer DAO. And yeah, for example, like one of the things that I got off the ground was our first like sub DAO, which is the Balancer Grants Committee. It's like a committee slash sub DAO, which is completely made up of community members who self-organize as a team. People who have the expertise and passion for um, you know helping to support like an ecosystem of projects that are building on and around Balancer, and giving them for the and putting them in a position where they were able to make a proposal to the community and be approved and authorized to deploy funds from the Balancer Ecosystem Fund, and to evaluate grant projects and work directly with those teams and help them grow. Like, yeah, doing things like that also helped to establish the partnership sub DAO. And yeah, now we have a whole bunch of sub DAOs in the Balancer DAO, and that's just growing. So all of this is has been just really amazing for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love all how you've built out so many areas of Balancer, and obviously you're a key team member, and contributing a lot to the ecosystem. So yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, I'd say like another thing that I've learned a lot about is like developing skills around taking really complex concepts and trying to explain them in the clearest way possible that can be like accessible and digestible by wide audience. I've always found that Balancer is one of the more complicated protocols out there, and something that a lot of people may not grasp right away. And there are a lot of ways that you can explain it to people. You can give them kind of like the hardcore technical explanation, and if they're like a DeFi degen or a developer, they might get that, but everybody else will just be probably lost. So I've been it's been a great challenge to try to solve that puzzle, and that has definitely been a great learning for me.
Hey, Jeremy, moving more over to like the just Balancer as a protocol. For those listening that may be new to crypto, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube, could you explain what the Balancer protocol is and the purpose of the BAL token?
Sure. So the Balancer protocol, I would describe as mainly two things. One is it's an automated market maker. And in DeFi, we have seen this primitive of AMMs used for the use case of a decentralized exchange, which Balancer is. But that's sort of one way that Balancer, that's one of the emergent properties of Balancer's design. In general, what we see in AMMs and DeFi is that they're utilized by projects or traders or investors to build liquidity around tokens so that traders can easily access that liquidity, and there's a healthy market for tokens, whether they be DeFi governance tokens or layer one protocols or any other kind of token. And Balancer is used that way, but I think that Balancer's design as an AMM is really unique, and that really sets it apart in ways that I think will become more and more apparent as time goes on and as the space and the project further matures. So to explain that, first of all, traders are not the only entities in DeFi that need access to liquidity. There's this whole other area which is even bigger, and that is protocols and applications, which also need access to liquidity. And when you design an AMM to be fully flexible and customizable, which is how Balancer is designed, any AMM is essentially comprised of liquidity pools. But liquidity pools on Balancer are different because you can deploy a pool with many different types of configurations in terms of the parameters of the pool. That means it can contain many assets. Today, you can deploy a pool containing anywhere between 2 and 40 assets in one liquidity pool. The weights of the distribution of weights between the tokens in a pool is customizable. The swap fees for the pool are customizable. And not only are they customizable, but they can also be delegated to some external fee setting process, whether that be like a DAO-based community vote or some algorithmic fee optimization type of system. And I mean, I can go on for a good hour just on how pools can be customized. But the point here is that this design, which is really different from every other AMM, makes it so balancer pools can be utilized as this essential infrastructural layer throughout DeFi for many different use cases. Each tweak that you make to the configurations of a liquidity pool can thus lead to the emergence of a different use case. And so the flexible access to liquidity that Balancer enables is a dream for developers in DeFi, because they can take these pools, you can develop a pool and essentially plug that into your application in the way that you need. So yes, Chase, please ask your question.
Oh, no worries. I was just kind of holding up as a placeholder, but you're really kind of touched on the question I was going to ask. You had really kind of hinted at it already that, Balancer is a pretty complex protocol. I was just going to see if you could kind of dive in from like the user perspective, like who are the various users that would use this protocol, from, as you're touching on, the back end dev side, and then also just from like the front end as an individual user. I'm new to DeFi. Like, how would I interact with this protocol?
Yeah, Balancer really focuses first and foremost on being a platform for developers. And so the primary audience that we really connect with, I don't want to say that it's the only audience, but largely, our growth strategy and like the way Balancer relates to the DeFi ecosystem is by being this tool for developers to build flexible liquidity pools to help power their protocols and applications. And at the same time, Balancer is also a DEX, so it's used by traders every day, and it's used by liquidity providers. Traders use Balancer to exchange any ERC20 token for any other. And liquidity providers are investors who deposit their assets into Balancer liquidity pools to earn a yield passively. There are many different liquidity pools on Balancer, and when you go to balancer.fi, or app.balancer.fi to be exact, and you see sort of the list of liquidity pools there, you can see what kind of yield percentage each pool is providing, and use that as an opportunity basically to earn interest, so to speak, on it's not interest per se, because this is not a borrow lend, but just as a sort of simplifying the concept, it's like putting assets to work and increasing your position.
Yeah, Jeremy, I also noticed that like some of the pools have this like Oracle functionality to them. Could you explain like what that is, and like what's the advantage of that functionality in the pools?
Yeah, so I'm not an Oracle expert, so I'll kind of keep it kind of high level and simple. But essentially, Balancer pools can serve as a price oracle and provide a time-weighted price for trading pairs. So yeah, that can be used as an oracle in DeFi, and that's something that developers have definitely found useful.
Hey, Jeremy, at a high level, can you explain what the vault is and how it plays a part of the Balancer ecosystem?
For sure, yeah. The vault is a really cool feature, and really like the foundation of what Balancer V2 is. So first off, in Balancer V1, we had this architecture where every liquidity pool on Balancer was contained within its own smart contract address. And what the like, I take zero credit for this whatsoever, but what the team realized was that if this could be redesigned as one vault, which is basically one big smart contract which contains every liquidity pool, so that all of the tokens that are held in all of the various liquidity pools on Balancer are actually in this one vault, the efficiency of this system increases exponentially. So, and it also enables some very interesting features. So anytime there are transactions made on, like trades made on Balancer, including trades that involve multiple pools or multiple hops. So like if I'm trading, ETH for BAL, and let's say, for example, that there wasn't a lot of liquidity between ETH and BAL. I mean, it just so happens that there is, but the smart order router or SOR on Balancer would route the most efficient path across pools to fulfill your trade. So let's say that's from ETH to DAI to BAL, because there's a lot of liquidity between ETH and DAI, and there's a lot of liquidity between DAI and BAL. There could be a 2-hop trade, but both of those hops are actually just happening within the vault, as opposed to jumping across like multiple smart contracts. So the efficiency of that is really great. And for developers, working with the vault is also beneficial because they can access sort of all the tokens that are in the vault.
That the smart order routing is a really interesting concept. I'm curious, like in the future, assuming we do arrive in a cross-chain, multi-chain future, which I think is pretty likely, will that also kind of extend outside ETH L1? And will you guys kind of be aggregating and using cross-chain services to support a multi-chain ecosystem?
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. I think that what's really needed for that future to be realized is really like secure, reliable bridging. And Balancer is first and foremost focused on security. Security is everything at Balancer. And so, when we feel that there are, and I'm like, I don't even want to say we because it's not me, but when the like Balancer Labs development team and when the Balancer DAO reaches a point of thinking that infrastructure is sufficiently secure and reliable, then that's something that we could potentially see.
I know you just mentioned security, Jeremy. My follow-up question on the vault was actually going to be, could you elaborate on like the strength of the security of the vault, since all the liquidity pools are in one smart contract?
Yeah, so I think that's a natural question. That was also a question that I had back when we were first designing Balancer V2, which is if if all the tokens are in one vault, is that more of a security concern? Well, I think the most direct way that I could address that is that Balancer has, for a long time running, I don't know if anyone else has put out a bigger one, but I believe we still have the biggest bug bounty in the industry, which has been out there since May 2020, coming on a year now, which is 1,000 ETH for anyone who can find a vulnerability in the vault. And they haven't so far. So the security of the vault has proven to be quite strong.
Yeah, I remember at ETH Denver, one of the members of your team was speaking, and he had mentioned the bug bounty. So definitely anyone listening, go participate in that. To help balance it out if you think you can crack it.
Definitely.
So, my next question, I saw balancer cow protocol. Could you elaborate on what this is? I think it's like the first time I saw it when I was looking at the website.
Yeah, it's a deep integration between Balancer v2 and CowSwap. So CowSwap uses Balancer as its settlement layer for trades. It is also connected to other dexes so that it can aggregate liquidity across DeFi. However, because it is integrated more deeply with Balancer, what naturally happens is that it's able to provide the most efficient path for trade execution and the best pricing on Balancer. So Balancer benefits from this partnership by getting this source of trade volume, and CowSwap gets this highly efficient like AMM infrastructure that it's essentially built upon. So yeah, it's been a great like marriage, you could say, between two protocols that are that offer a lot of value to the space and both make each other better.
And could you elaborate maybe as much as you could on the technical side on how this how it has MEV protection?
Yeah, so the MEV protection that CowSwap provides is through this system of solvers that was designed by Gnosis. And the Gnosis solvers basically batch trades together and look for. So the reason why CowSwap is named that way is because COW actually stands for coincidence of wants. And so what the Gnosis solvers do on CowSwap is that they batch orders and execute them sort of by matching buy and sell orders that are kind of looking to swap the same tokens but on opposite sides, and then makes those trades happen like more directly so that it's not put in the mempool where it can be MEV sandwich attacked. And that not only saves traders money by protecting them from MEV, but it also allows them to trade gaslessly on Balancer and on CowSwap. So basically, by the way, like if you make a trade on CowSwap or if you make a trade on Balancer, it's the exact same thing. Like you're still using the same system, just two different interfaces. And a really cool feature is that you can pay gas in any token. You don't have to have ETH in your wallet to make a trade. And that's, a lot of users have given feedback that that's very convenient for them.
Yeah, that's the first time I've seen just pay gas in any token. I mean, that would definitely be helpful, especially if you don't have ETH. Like, say you just want to pay with a balancer for your transaction fee. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a great UX improvement, I think, where that whole, just like the whole making sure you have enough ETH in your wallet for the trade to go through, like that whole thing is kind of eliminated, and the fee is just embedded into the amount of tokens that you are getting back for your trade. So some piece of that will be taken out to cover fees.
Hey Jeremy, looking through the website, I saw something that seemed really interesting. I was just wondering if you could expand on it under the feature section around asset managers. Could you kind of touch on that new pool type, and is that still something that's kind of coming out soon that's on the roadmap, or is this something that already has launched?
Both. So asset managers, to quickly explain the concept, is it's a liquidity pool that can actually like rehypothecate or reallocate assets that are inside the pool into other external yield generating strategies or activities. So to like put that in practical terms, it's a pool where you're as an LP, you're depositing assets into that pool, and then those assets are simultaneously being deposited into Aave, and they're earning yield on both at the same time. Now, asset managers was the first iteration of this concept, and I think the site will be updated soon to reflect this. But once we started working on asset managers, and again, we is not myself, it's the amazing engineers on our team. They kind of had this breakthrough and came up with an even better implementation of the same concept, which is live, and it's called boosted pools. So with boosted pools, you can do the same thing, and Aave has partnered with us to launch the first boosted pool very recently. And this is a pool where I believe it's about 90% of the assets that are actually in the balancer pool are simultaneously deposited into Aave. So when you're an LP in that pool on balancer, you're getting the yield that the pool is generating, plus you're getting the yield that the Aave deposit is generating. So you're really boosting your yield potential there. And to explain how that works, so in any AMM, in a liquidity pool, there is only a small percentage usually of the total amount of tokens in a pool, if it's a pool that has significant liquidity, that there's only a small percentage that is actually being used to fulfill trades, and the rest is pretty much sitting there dormantly. And this concept is a solution to boost capital efficiency by identifying where that threshold is and having a buffer beyond that threshold, so that the pool has what it needs to stay liquid and to fulfill trade transactions as they come through, and take the excess that's technically still in the pool but doesn't need to be fully in the pool, and putting that elsewhere where it can be more productive. So yeah, hopefully that made sense.
And Jeremy, I meant to ask right at the end of my other question. So since you're not technically paying gas, or it's coming out of the transaction for the tokens, does that go back to the liquidity pool, or does that go into a balanced treasury? How does where do those tokens go?
The tokens that are paid to the solvers.
Okay.
Is that yeah? So it goes to the solvers. The solvers take a fee. The fee covers what they will then actually pay for gas, because solvers are basically executing the trade for you by batching these orders together, and the solver makes a profit for doing that, and so it covers what it pays for gas on your behalf, plus a profit for the solver, and that's on CalSwap's side. So
Okay,
yeah.
I see. Mia, did you have you had a question you wanted to ask?
Yeah. Jeremy, kind of taking a step, I guess, into the future, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on the future of liquidity protocols. And do you see them having like hundreds of millions to billions of liquidity in them at all times? Like, where do you see liquidity protocols moving to in the future?
Yeah. So generally, I think that in my philosophy and our philosophy is that the future of liquidity protocols is really bright when you think about it from the perspective of, connecting liquidity to all of the applications and protocols in DeFi that need it. And I think Balancer's long-term growth trajectory is really tied to how well we can continue to build a thriving ecosystem of developers that come in and use our protocol as this composable building block for what is that they're creating. Like, I can give you some examples to just help solidify this. So let's say, for example, that you are building a game, and your game contains in-game assets. And sometimes there are games where through gameplay, players are like converting one asset into another. Like there could be one asset that is like easier to gain in the game, and it's like less valuable. But once you gain like a certain number of that asset, then you can actually level up into this like more rare asset, for example, let's say. Well, you and those are actual like, liquid, like for example, ERC20 tokens that have value on the market. So you need some sort of mechanism to facilitate that liquidity. And a very elegant way to build that is actually just by creating a balancer pool that contains those assets and runs on the back end of your game. So each time that those assets need to be traded for each other, the game executes that trade automatically through the pool. And that balancer liquidity pool is like part of the design of your game. It's part of the like financial infrastructure of the game. Another example could be that so Aave uses Balancer in a couple of ways. One of them is the boosted pools that we mentioned. Another is they have a security staking module that's built on Balancer. They have an 80-20 Aave ETH pool, so 80% Aave, 20% ETH. And the liquidity providers of this pool can stake their Balancer pool tokens, BPTs, into Aave's staking module. And at the same time, while that Aave is essentially staked, it's actually in this liquidity pool. And that means that stakers are simultaneously providing liquidity to the Aave token while they stake, as opposed to like a single-sided staking solution where, you'd be like, for example, in Aave's case, like telling everyone to just take their Aave and stake it and make it inactive and inaccessible. So it's more beneficial if you're a DeFi project to, like, you want tokens to be locked because you want to keep supply like limited and you want to keep people committed. But at the same time, and you want to keep them, invested long term, but at the same time, you really want to make sure that you have a liquid market for your token. So the Aave security module or 80-20 pool is another example of like a balancer pool acting as infrastructure within like a protocol or application. And so, these use cases are really exploding right now, really mushrooming and growing. And I think the future of liquidity really lies in a protocol like Balancer that can be flexible enough to actually fulfill that demand, which is only going to grow because as this space grows, there are more developers building DeFi applications. Those DeFi applications acquire more users, and the usage, as the usage of those applications increases, then the usage of the composable underlying infrastructure of those applications indirectly experiences growth as well. And so that's basically the vision for how Balancer is going to really like grow exponentially over time.
Yeah, I love that. I wasn't even thinking about the GameFi use cases of Balancer, but that's you got my head thinking about other possibilities. Obviously, you're gaining a lot of traction currently within the DeFi space. I guess, have you seen like any like obscure like use cases that are kind of out of the box that you wouldn't expect to be like thriving within the Balancer ecosystem?
Obscure.
Yeah, kind of like out of the box, like something that's out of the box, something that maybe people aren't currently thinking about, but like maybe a use case that more people should be paying attention to or researching.
Yeah, I mean, I think so one use case that we have been thinking about for a while, but I think the space is starting to open its eyes to more and more right now is DeFi native index funds. And if I think there are a lot of teams out there that are interested in and working on building index fund products because it's a really easy way for investors, especially like newbie investors, to make an investment that gives them exposure to like a whole sector or a whole basket of tokens based on a certain theme, whatever it may be. So there are quite a few projects that are collaborating with Balancer right now to build those kinds of products. And there's really no better solution, like just period, for building an index fund in DeFi where you can create a Balancer pool that holds multiple tokens. The weights of those tokens are up to the design that pool creator wants for their index fund. Balancer pools can also be designed to have the ability to dynamically add and remove tokens while they're live. So that's something that index funds need to do where, if you're like, let's say you were tracking like the S&P 500 index in TradFi, the index is always changing because the top 500 companies, it's not a static list. Companies fall out of the top 500, companies rise into the top 500, and the index fund manager needs to be able to add and remove those assets. So you can do that with Balancer, which is something that you can't do with like any other AMM liquidity pool. Plus, you can have a very large number of tokens, which you can't do with any other AMM liquidity pool. So it's really like the very, very straightforward solution. And it's the easiest way to just get that whole thing off the ground. Like anyone can literally build that pool. And then, as an index fund project, Balancer provides all that infrastructure, makes it super easy to deploy. And the rest is on you where, how you package that and what you call it and how you promote it and how you market it. Like you can just not worry about building all of that from the ground up, which is just like huge for developers.
Yeah. It kind of comes back to like the whole programmable infrastructure that we've been talking about. It's super exciting. I know, Jeremy, we have a lot of listeners too that are early developers or people that are currently developing in the space. Do you have like any recommendations where people could go to like review resources to start building on Balancer?
Yeah, definitely. So we have pretty good docs available at docs.balancer.fi. We also have like a really passionate and helpful community on our Discord, which you can find by going to discord.balancer.fi. If there's anything that you're wondering about that maybe is like not covered in the docs, or you're kind of wanting or needing more like hands-on help or someone to help answer questions, we have some like really awesome community members who are basically there and love helping. So would highly recommend, joining our Discord server. I think that the more that we can kind of get more like tutorials out there and content out there for developers, the better. That's something that we have been talking about and working on, and it's a priority for us. So we definitely are going to be like providing more content to help developers, especially like new developers, like get their feet wet, get off the ground, because we really want to support you guys.
I love it, man. Chase, super. Do you guys have any other questions for Jeremy?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to come talk to us.
Sure.
Pleasure. Plus one to
that. Jeremy, sometimes near the end of these spaces, we allow like guests to come up. Cool if we maybe have one or two people come up if they're looking to ask a question.
Yeah, I have just a couple minutes.
Yeah, so maybe one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tight. If anyone in the audience wants to ask a question, hit that request. We'll have you guys up. Jeremy only has 2 minutes, so we'll try to make it brief if he has to run. We'll just give it a couple seconds here, see if anyone's down. But second everything that Chase and Super said, we just appreciate you coming out, taking your time to come on the base space, and it was a pleasure meeting you at ETH Denver, and I hope we get to cross paths again, man. You go into any other events in the near future?
Yeah, I'm speaking at the Harvard Blockchain Conference at the end of this month, and then I'll be at what's it called, Dev Connect in Amsterdam.
Oh, that's dope. I'm kind of jealous. All right, man. We'll let you go. Appreciate you coming out, and let's stay in touch, man. Everyone stay based.
Stay based. Thank you again, Jeremy.
Thanks, guys. Stay based always.
Let's go. Peace.
Based space.